evening, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jade.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Erica.
And this is Perfectly Marvelous, a podcast currently dedicated to the hit Hulu show Only Murders in the Building.
And today we're reviewing Season 3, Episode 7, CoBro.
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 Yes. And remember, we only put up part of our review on YouTube. We're only doing the theories portion on YouTube. So if you are into it and you want to see our whole entire review, the whole shebang, then go to patreon.com/perfectlymarvelouspodcast and you can sign up to be one of our most marvelous members. You can see the entire video, or you can just listen to the full podcast. All the links are in the description. And if you enjoy our videos, please like them, please subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment. We got more comments this week, and oh boy, it makes me happy. So we love it. Thank you so much for engaging with us and subscribing. We've gotten so many new subscribers. It just warms the cold cockles of my black heart. My my evil villainous heart is warmed. Without further ado, let's get it going. Tits up, ladies.
Tits up.
Okay, so I was so excited this episode to see one Miss Jackie Hoffman, the queen, the goddess.
The queen.
More Jackie Hoffman, please. This was so freaking thrilling.
Yeah.
Oh, so
I think I squealed once I realized.
Oh,
yes.
Fully.
Talking.
Yeah. Definitely. We have a voiceover from Uma, and she's with Bunny.
I know.
It was so lovely to see Bunny again.
No.
It was so cute. It was sad.
I know, it was sad. They had their little, their friendship sandwich ritual that was
precious.
God, I know, it was so precious. And so then we learned that Uma's a klepto, low-key klepto.
Of course she is.
A sentimental klepto. And of course, Uma was with the trio when they found Ben Glenroy's dead body, and she was looking at that handkerchief. And okay, so what did we think about all of this? Go back to the beginning when she was with Bunny. This was actually partially, was this my most marvelous moment? Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, should I have picked this moment? Darn, it was just so good to see.
Pretty fabulous.
It was.
Right? So there's something about Jackie Hoffman's face that when she smiles, I feel like I'm seeing, she has the most interesting face, right? Because she's got this resting bitch face like none other. And then when she all of a sudden cracks a smile, it's like, I feel like I'm seeing something I shouldn't be seeing or something. It's like, it's an anomaly almost. It looks so bizarre when she smiles, and her smile is so... her face literally completely changes, like one of those theater masks.
You made me think about when Christina Ricci played Wednesday, when she does that forced smile in What Addams Family Values.
Yes.
And she's like, she's scaring me. Talk about face acting.
Right?
That movie was brilliant. I need to watch that again.
But because she never smiles, I feel like it's really special when she does. Because what's weird is that when you see her on the after show, the Hulu after show, One Killer Question, she laughs a lot. But then as soon as her face goes, so it's like her personality, she's a comedian, she's very funny, and her job is like laughter. But as soon as her face stops the smile, it goes right back to like so much down. Like that's her resting face. I don't know. It's just so, she's such a special actor. There's no other actor like her. She's so unique. No one can do what Jackie Hoffman does, So we get a lot out of this. She likes people, but she doesn't trust them because people leave. She has the kind of abandonment issues, and that's the reason for her kleptoness. I know that. Yeah, when I saw it was really funny though, the way that she was like slyly pickpocketing like Lester the doorman.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I think we need a complete one-off episode on Uma.
Oh yeah, I would watch a Uma Bunny spinoff.
I really think so.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Actually, I kind of want to put in a clip of the fidget spinner, Paul, when Bunny is doing that fidget spinner and how she's so delighted by it.
I was thinking about the fidget spinner, like the show is so intentional with color, and I'm like, does pink, that really bright pink, it's not a color they usually use in this in the palette of the show, and it kind of like was very striking with that. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Pink did really stand out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, and this opening and the whole thing revealing basically that Uma took this handkerchief and she's a kleptomaniac and all of that reminded me why you never quite know what's coming in this show, because we make all these predictions and then they come forward with an episode that's just brilliant and kind of seamlessly expands on,
and it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like, okay, that didn't make any sense, but does when you see she's there with them when Ben dies, you're like, well, it is plausible. That definitely happened. And I buy it.
I think they're good at covering up, like if you go and look back on season 1 and 2, they're good at distracting you with humor or a joke when something important is happening.
Absolutely. The misdirect. Yep.
And I like with this one, I was like, damn, they are good at this. Like now, this episode made me really start to think about theories and what I might have missed or overlooked, because it made so much sense introducing Uma. I wasn't expecting that at all. I don't know what you guys were thinking coming into this episode, but Uma was the last person I was expecting us to be focused on. And I love that they surprised me. I love that they can still do that. But now I'm less certain about who the murderer could end up being.
I'm totally less certain than ever. Absolutely.
But I like that.
Yeah. I just to add on to them, like I'm almost at a place where I'm like, I might just sit back and enjoy the ride a little bit, because you're right, because there's so many things.
Erica, that's your way. I love that about you. I'm just enjoying. Your answer is always, I don't know who the murderer is because we haven't seen all the episodes. I don't have all the information.
I know, but I think that
you're like my mama. She's never tries to solve the mystery.
Totally
She's
like your mama. And that's the greatest compliment you can give me, because Jade's mama is like the coolest chick ever.
She really is.
It's like where I rewatched the trailer yesterday just because I'm like, you guys inspired me when I was listening to your feedback last week, and I'm like, I'm going to rewatch this because I feel like they throw so many misdirections, so much at us at once. I get overwhelmed, and I think that's just the way I am. Like when I unpack things, I'm very like strategic. I do one at a time, and I'm like, there's just way too much information, and it's not bad. I don't think it's a bad way of doing it, but I'm like, they keep on putting so much in. Like I know in the trailer they highlighted Kimber, they highlighted Loretta, like the way, but that's it. Like there was not enough. And then what they gave us this episode, I'm kind of like, they're still not giving us enough. They're still just kind of going back. And I'm like, all right, okay, keep it coming. Fill my dish, and then eventually we'll figure it out. We'll find the prize in a cereal box at some point. But yeah, no, I do agree. But yeah, this I did enjoy.
I don't know what it was, but for me, like I walked away from this episode not remembering a ton, like as usual, but I think it's because I enjoyed it so much. It felt like, I don't know, older Only Murders episodes, and I don't know if it's because of Theo being back or what, but
and Bunny, we saw a lot of greatest hits.
It was just so solidly enjoyable, and it reminded me why I love this show so much.
Me too.
And I
agreed.
Now
this was the
excited.
episode that solidly put in my mind season 3 is my second favorite season after season 1. I like this season more than season 2. I definitely do. And I was saying to you guys before we started recording, if you're not a theater person, and if you're not a theater person, I can really see how a lot of people don't get this. They're like, this isn't my humor. These jokes are over my head. I'm actually surprised that they're doing so much to do with theater and so many inside jokes of
so
theater
much
life.
Shakespeare. Like, and not, run of the mill typical high school Shakespeare, like Richard II and Richard II. Like neither of those
Salome.
Yes,
like Winter's Tale, Cherry Orchard. These are not plays that you know of. Like, yeah, like you're saying, Romeo and Juliet. Everyone knows what that is. This is something that you actually have to have gone to like school for, have a particular vested interest in, and then like even the Cherry Orchard. That's not the first Chekhov play. That's usually the Seagull. And the next one would be like Three Sisters. The Cherry Orchard is deep Chekhov. You know,
Importance of Being Earnest, while is a well-known play, and it's wonderful, but
it is wonderful.
If you are not into theater, you're not gonna know what the themes are, what the plot is. And even, I might be mixing it up with another show, but I thought even at the very beginning there was a very vague Titus Andronicus reference at some point, which is like, I'm gonna have to look it up now. I might be mixing it up with somebody else, but that is like deep cut Shakespeare.
Yeah, really. So, seriously. Yeah.
I don't know. I agree though that if you don't like theater or you're not invested, I think it could be slightly isolating. And
a little.
Just wouldn't be getting as much meat from the show, because every time I hear a different reference, I'm like going over that plot in my head and the themes, and I feel like they're sending us these giant signals with all of those references. It's hard not to pause every time and like write stuff down that I remember.
So I was discussing this with Paul, actually, my podcast host buddy from my other podcast. Listen to it. It's called Shall We Compare Thee, where we compare classic films to their remakes. And now we are doing a MVP series, Murders, Villains, and Private Eyes, to go along with Only Murders in the Building. We just did Clue review. We did a Clue review, and we just did Dial M for Murder and A Perfect Murder, the remake. So check it out. Links in the description. But I was talking with Paul, and he was like, this is an Only Murders in the Building is an interesting kind of murder mystery, because it's not like those posters in the background, for example, or the little Easter eggs that are left around the set. It's watching the show and solving the mystery you have to do it in a different way than if you're like reading a mystery, and a lot of times watching other mysteries, because the killer didn't put up that poster. The writers did. So it's almost an amount of how far did you zoom in, and and how much Googling did you do afterwards to find out the references and then what that might be pointing to. So it's kind of like an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
It's like a Where's Waldo.
Yeah. Right. Like it's a different watch. It's a different mystery watch.
It's very thought. Like there's a lot of thought behind it. It's not, we're not thinking as the killer. But cool.
I get to play my little theater detective brain is so happy about this season. But let's keep going. I just wanted to say one thing that I really enjoyed. My probably favorite Uma moment was when she comes out of the elevator and Lester goes, "Nice haircut," and she goes, "Keep it in your pants, perv."
Yes. Oh,
love it.
So good.
Really, really cracked me up. Oh, so then we get the opening credits, and there was one thing I saw. There was the wallpaper of Charles' apartment was like the hankies.
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty easy to spot. I didn't see anything else.
That's all I saw.
I liked it though. I didn't see anything else either.
There was one other oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say there was one other thing during the Uma opening, is that when you see her outside of Howard's apartment, you could hear him yodeling.
I know.
And he was stealing Sevelin's mouse. But that was at the time when Ben died, so that at least, of course, hammers it that he was definitely absolutely 100% not involved.
Not there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was? Oh, yeah, you're right. It was because she was just about to go. You're right.
That's why there were so many
really good call, Erica.
In this episode.
Yeah.
Because I was watching at the timestamp, because the moment when she was with Bonnie, then it was like a flash forward to.
No, you're right.
Yeah, and then that was the point, and I don't know if we could hear Jonathan, because again, like it was the screener and the sound.
I tried,
but I could hear Howard.
Yeah.
And can I just say, Michael Cyril Cretan learned to yodel for this show, and he does such a good job at it. He talked about it in an interview on Only Murders in the Pod for season 2, And he's just great. He just really goes the extra mile as a performer. He's so talented. And he was so insecure about his yodeling abilities too. And I'm like, dude, you're so good. Dude, yodeling is really hard. Yeah, and he took it upon himself to learn how to yodel. And then when he said he needed a little extra help, the show put him with someone like a yodeling coach. But he really put in the time to learn how to do that. And he's great at
Amazing.
it. So, yeah. So then, okay, so Charles and these hankies, right? So Charles has lunch with Uma. And he finds out that she has Ben's hanky. I'm like, how? Why would you pry a bloody hanky out of a dead man's hand? What is your take on this?
I know. I'm like, ew.
Like, why would that be kleptomania? It's a compulsion. Like,
I guess
it's not like she's actively making rational, logical, well thought out choices. Like the mania part of it is you are compelled to do it. So she sees something that catches her attention and she's gonna get it. And I was just like, damn, Uma, I want to know what else you've taken over the years.
Did you guys
got a whole closet?
Did you zoom in on a closet? Because I was looking at that painting in the back that was peeking through, and I'm like, no, that's not that. That's not Charles. That's not the Charles painting because that was already. But I was like, I want to get a good picture and zoom in.
There has to be Easter eggs in there.
Yeah.
The idea that she just took an entire painting off a wall really reminded me of, okay, so my mama and her best friend, her name was Shelly. She passed away. I miss her so very much. She was a bit of a klepto, and we would go to like restaurants and stuff. And one day we were at this Mexican restaurant and she came, we were about to pay, we paid the check and we were all about to leave. And she comes back with her coat like draped over this big thing. And she's like, go to the car, pull the car around now. And I was like, what? Okay. And so, and I didn't even have my learner's permit, I don't think at the time, but I had to drive for my mama. They had been indulging in some margaritas. So it was Jade's turn to drive home. So I was like, okay. And so I got really scared and I pulled the car around and she had this whole entire painting under her jacket that she had just taken off of the wall. It's still in my mama's house.
I don't even want to know how that happened.
It can be done. The painting was definitely not as large as the one Uma had, but just the idea of tiny little Uma like stealing a huge painting off a wall really tickled me. Oh wow. Gosh. So so Charles finds out she's got the hanky and then she sold it for $7,000 later. We find that out to Dickie, I guess, right? That's we see him holding it. That's the hanky. So that's canon, right? Okay. So one other thing I wanted to say.
Paid $7,000 for that hanky. Like, is there, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Some more significance to the hanky that we don't realize.
So Charles and the hankies, have we all thought about the reality of this situation a little bit? Can you imagine a huge celebrity like Ben dying and you're at a Broadway show with him and the only real thing that he's ever given to you, the only memory you have of him is this hanky? Would you just be giving it to Charles Hayden Savage randomly when he just goes, hey guys, give me all your hankies and I'll make a quilt? Like, the reality of that situation really hit me on this when he just dumped them all out on the table. I'm like, I would be like, heck no, you ain't getting this hanky. This is my hanky, bitch. You can see it. It's right here. I got it. Like, can I have it back now?
Knowing that Kimber had made money off of it and Uma then made money off of it. I know that happened before we learned that. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna keep this. This is significant.
Or even sentimental. Like, no.
You know,
or just
it's a cool story.
Why did Charles have to take them from? Couldn't he just see that they still have them? Like, yes, I have mine. Proof right here. Like, I don't know. It was probably I'm way overthinking this, but
it was just Charles being terrible at investigating and being subtle. Like the only way he could think to get people talking about their hankies was to suggest that they all just show them to each other and make a quilt. I was like,
each other.
I'm like, all right, man.
So okay, Oliver now. Yeah.
Sorry, I just paused on the closet. And did you notice there was a traffic cone in there?
No.
Oh wait, in Uma's closet.
This is so funny.
I know, me too.
Also a lamb stuffed animal in that closet. She's stealing from a baby.
Of course she is. Of course she is.
Come on, Uma.
All right, so next stuff, let's move on to Oliver. This whole auditioning for the constable. Oliver, he's at the end of his rope, and Cliff's got some connections. He's got some Matthew Broderick connections.
Yeah, Cliff has some serious connections.
Serious connections. But I just loved that bad audition. that guy. I gotta show you guys this. Hold on.
Which of the Pickwick trip?
That's so good.
Okay.
Like, come on.
It's a patter song. So if you can bring a little more patter pep up.
This is as pattery as I get.
And then this part. Wait for it.
Pattery as I get.
When he just walks
Everyone
away.
stinks.
And the guy just turns
We're
back
the decent
around.
actors.
When Oliver,
And
Everyone stinks.
the guy turns around like, hey, dude, what the fuck?
Man.
Do you know
I don't know why that really made me laugh hard.
It was funny.
my husband thought it was Larry David. He's like, isn't it that guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm? I'm like, that's not Larry David. Although he kind of resembles him at this point. Everybody kind of looks like Larry David now, but
That could be a very good Curb moment, though. I could see it.
And so then the very next moment after this was whose marvelous moment was this?
it was mine. It was
Right.
mine. It was so
Cliff's-
silly.
Cliff's stress dancing. It's right here. Paul, it's at 8 minutes and 29 seconds. You don't have to
Funny.
you don't have to just play from 8 minutes all the way through the Cliff's stress dancing part. Ping pong pressures of producing. Okay, here we go.
Why are they being kept from me?
I feel like we're working off old lists, like ancient, crusty lists.
Darling,
please. You know how upsetting it is for me when you stress dance.
It's these ping-ponging pressures of producing. How do you do it? If it's not one thing, it's a goddamn mother. And sometimes I feel like I don't have a single good... Oh, wait. I have an idea.
I have an idea.
Hurrah. But run it by mommy first, in case it's a stinker.
And can I just say,
Ugh.
the outfits that Cliff and Donna are serving. I mean, this ruffled shirt with this vest from Cliff, and Donna's like pink and green metallic floral embroidered cape like shawl thing. I mean, fashion, high fashion.
That's the thing. Cliff's outfit. One, I thought of the shirt, like the puffy shirt from Seinfeld, and then
Yes.
Oh
his
yeah,
little vest. I was just getting
I want that
like
vest.
a Boo vibes from Aladdin. And especially when he was dancing, I don't know if because I was tired when I watched this episode the first time, but I was just like, that's a very interesting outfit. But the stress dancing was brilliant. Like,
It's so brilliant.
and it worked because
It does.
he got an idea. Maybe I'll have to try that.
I'm
time I'm
thinking
stressed.
so. I think Cliff's onto something.
Mhm.
Truly.
But when Donna says mommy, tell mommy first, I immediately recoil. It's like,
it's not his real mother. It's, trust me, not. There's
But
no way.
also
There's
right
no way.
before, and right
Not
before
be.
he said something, then he said first it's this, and then it's the mothers or something. So, but like right after.
No. He said if it's not
Said
one thing,
other.
it's the goddamn other
Oh.
or something.
But I thought I heard mother too
Okay.
Yeah,
when I listened.
Me too. He says
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, the way he says it is strange.
It's not
But
one thing.
Donna was killing it. Can you guys look up the name of the actor? Because I totally forgot to get her name. I always forget it.
Mhm.
But she is freaking fabulous. When Oliver says, I have too much integrity to make him come back, and Donna says, counterpoint, you have no integrity. And this is the perfect time to make use of that.
Linda Emond.
Linda Eamon, thank you.
Yep.
Everything she says, her way of talking, just so delightful. It's so theatrical and wonderful. No one talks like that. She's very unique.
I had a theater teacher that talked like that, but it was
Oh, of course. Didn't we
100%
all?
on purpose. And
Oh yeah.
the scarves. I miss her scarves. She had really good scarves.
Yeah. The way she said Charles was our only name. She has this sing-songy way of talking. It's so
Like a
great.
little
My choir director talked like
vibrato.
her.
That makes sense.
She
My
said
no-
again a lot. She's like, again.
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 yes.
Again, let's
Again.
sing it again. We're doing the humming song. Let's sing it again.
Again.
Erica,
Once
stand
again.
up in front of everybody and sing it by yourself in front of 400 people again. I'm like, fuck you. And I did. It was It was great.
You know, the last
It
song
was
I
great.
sang in choir was 50 Nifty United States, because I think I stopped being in choir in like 3rd grade. So that is what is seared in my memory.
That was your big
awesome.
moment.
Yes.
Oh,
was
I can see it
great.
now in to go back in time. Oh, if only I had my time machine working. Oh, it's always
I was much better at singing than I was at ballet.
Me too.
Did not require as much grace.
So in my notes I have here, how is this show happening? They would just never, I'm getting over it. I have to let it go. But just the reality of the fact that they would go with Jonathan as Ben's replacement. Also, the fact that Jonathan just doesn't want to do it. That's got to be showing through to carry a Broadway show as the lead. To have someone not to just be terrified, that's gonna show in his performance.
Smell fear and insecurity from a mile away on stage.
Suspending my disbelief. The second audition that they did too, the bad audition when Oliver is just flat on the floor. He's just done. Really cracked me up.
That was fantastic.
So then Charles is upset that Oliver replaced him with Matthew Broderick. But Oliver's thrilled. Matthew Broderick, I've had sex dreams about this moment. I'm like, what?
Like, of course you did, Oliver.
And Matthew Broderick's response is like, still nothing. I'm like, what?
Hey, that must be nice for you.
He's like a robot.
Matthew Broderick is indeed a robot. This is okay. Hot takes. I'll say it now. So I'm going to get off it. Matthew Broderick is not my favorite actor because he has the emotional range of a tip of an extremely sharpened pencil. That is his. He is. Hi, I'm Matthew Broderick, and I am upset. Hi, I'm Matthew Broderick, and I am extremely happy. Hi, I'm Matthew Broderick, and I'm in love.
Matthew Broderick being sardonic works because
totally.
That's about it. Like that's him. Everything else, I'm just like, is somebody in there?
Is somebody in there?
Yeah, like what is
this thing on?
What is going on?
No, there's one thing that Oliver says where he goes, "Don't do it again. Don't make it too perfect, or people are gonna think it's an AI."
Yeah, I was like, it is.
It is. Is Matthew Broderick real? I need proof.
That was funny too because I've seen jokes repeatedly about people thinking that this season was somewhat written by AI, and part of me wondered if that was
hilarious.
Like a poke.
Well, that's just mean. I mean, I will say some of the jokes are a little stale, but the thing is I kind of love like dad jokes. I'm just a sucker for a cheesy pun, so I kind of love it. Like we all knew that when the fish was in that toilet, we all knew where this was going. No one, not a shocker, but it was fucking hilarious because it's Steve Martin over a toilet bowl. The way that he just goes,
like
Steve Martin, like,
and Carol's on the floor.
Only Steve Martin, it's just so good.
Oh, he's brilliant. If you don't like Steve Martin, you're gonna hate us because I feel like every episode there's at least a chunk where we're gushing over
the haters. I feel that the haters have long left.
They've
gone.
building.
We're all only lovers in the building, and we're talking to our people. Hi, people. Hi, loves. How you doing? We love you. Yeah, no, everyone's here for it. We're here for it.
Steve Martin coming up with the idea for this show was 3 like old men in New York sitting around solving murders. So like it's gonna be a
cheesy humor,
cheesy like dad humor, and I'm here for it.
Yep, we are.
My favorite type.
Loving it. Yep. So Charles has beef with Matthew Broderick because he wanted to be Ferris Bueller. Okay.
Can you imagine?
I would have loved like a fever dream of Steve Martin or Charles doing like Donkashane.
I like love the parade in downtown Chicago.
Okay. Steve Martin, if you're listening, because he listens to the podcast, longtime listener, friend of the pod. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Can you, if you could do me a favor, and in your spare time, like right now, if you could make a TikTok real quick of you singing his hairbrush, put some Donkashane on in the background, and in your mind, just get on that parade float, please. And
Selena Gomez can help.
Thank you.
She's on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh,
That'll
yeah.
be great.
Yes.
Didn't Oliver say something like, you were 42 or however old you were at the time? It's like, oh, I love it so much.
Oh, yes. And yeah, at the end when Oliver was like, you would have made a better Ferris Bueller. Really? No.
No, like I can't.
You mean that? I want to mean that, but no.
No.
Because it's true. You know, if there's one role that Matthew Broderick really pulled off, it's Ferris Bueller. And the funny thing is I think that, yes, sardonic. And I think that on paper, Ferris Bueller was written to be one way. And then Matthew Broderick came in and made it something else. So I do think that he was kind of miscast or strangely cast as this charming, smooth, like everybody loves him kind of guy. He's an unconventional choice for that kind of a role. But because he brought his sardonic Matthew Broderickness,
he was so cute.
Yeah, it made it.
And also, you gotta remember when it came out for me. I forget how old I was when that came out.
It's legendary, you know.
It
is.
And
it just became a unique.
Let's say 89,
86. Same year as Stand By Me.
So I was 7.
I was not alive.
Yeah. So,
anyway,
so cute.
In 2 years, I came
He's
along.
so cool. He cut school.
I
know, right?
related to Cameron.
Oh yeah. As an adult, I definitely relate to Cameron.
The anxiety. And this whole time I'm just like, Ferris, what the fuck? Stop it. It's like, this is irresponsible. And the Charlie Sheen moment in that movie, I remember as a teenager, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, he was very. I think he was very attractive as the drug addict guy, but he looked good then.
And do you know that to play that role, he stayed awake for 48 hours or like 72 hours or something?
You could tell. You
can really, really tell.
But he does. He was very handsome back then. And then Jennifer Grey, I think I related to her too because I was a middle child. I was the only girl, and like,
we can't see for me when I remember when little young Jade saw Ferris Bueller, I was just like, Mia Sarah is
oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling things inside
Gorgeous.
myself. Things are occurring inside of me where I think I'm in love.
It's funny how you can like pinpoint media moments where you're like, oh, this is different. What is this feeling?
Mia Sarah, she changed me. I have been changed.
That's why I love the name Sloane to this day.
Like, such a great
Sloane
name.
Peterson.
So sexy.
Wonderful.
Anywho,
anyway, tangents.
There we go.
Thank you, Ferris Bueller, for waking us all up at some point.
We had to have a little Ferris appreciation moment because
that's true. With Matthew, it's only fair.
Matthew, you know. And I gotta say, I did not mind him here at all. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to have a hot take opinion on like, oh god, Matthew Broderick, this is why I don't like the man. It's not like I don't like him, it's just not my favorite actor. I get nothing out of it. I also saw him on Broadway in Nice Work If You Can Get It. I went with one of my very good friends who is a huge Matthew Broderick fan, huge Ferris Bueller fan.
Aww.
And both of us walked out of that theater like, well, everyone has an off night, don't they? It just was not his best performance. I think he might have been sick. He was so out of it for that show, and he had gotten rave reviews in Nice Work. So and so forever in my mind, that's like my impression of Matthew Broderick in person is like he just didn't have it going on that day on stage.
Hopefully one day they'll be redeemed.
No, this kind of like redeemed him because he was great. This clearly was a role written for him, and he did great. He did.
And
very
it was
well.
like it's a little cheeky, like winking
making
at
fun
himself,
of,
yeah.
Ugh. And making fun of method actors.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We got a gut milk mention.
I love that. Charles and Oliver drinking chilled gut milk,
blue raspberry gut milk out of wine glasses, getting a little toasty on the wine milk. I mean, on the gut milk. Yeah.
Precious.
Do you guys know too that the writer who came up with gut milk, it's on Only Murders in the Pod, I think season 1 interview. They were talking about how did you come up with that? And they were talking about in the writer's room when gut milk came up and how happy they were to think of that. And then on Only Murders in the Pod, they said, and because it's like a play on gut milk, and the writer who came up with it goes, oh, did I just not understand my own joke? Like He didn't know
I think
about
I
the
remember
gut
that.
milk pun. I was like, I was bowled over by that, and I loved
That's
it.
so
It's so
funny.
delightful
Well,
to
you're
know.
so smart and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just thought it was a funny thing to call it, and I'm like, no, it's like a
Mhm.
pun. It's a play on words. Oh, it was so good. Happy
Oh,
accidents. So, okay,
funny.
rehearsal with Matthew Broderick. He fully invests himself in his roles.
Oh, yes, he does.
Exhausting Oliver. I gotta say though, I was very tickled by this because I rehearse like Matthew Broderick. Okay, so y'all know I can podcast till the cows come home. I can go a long time podcasting, and that's how I am in everything I do. I go the full mile and then some. So whenever I rehearse for theater, for anything I'm doing, I can rehearse for literally hours on end. Like I can do take after take. I'm always wanting more takes. Stanley Kubrick and I would have gotten along very well because he famously did like 500 takes for everything, and I would have loved that. Most actors hate it. This is so. I was kind of like, I get you, Matthew Broderick. Though I don't know if I'm quite as obnoxious as he is about it, but I can relate. I'm very thorough. There was a moment when he said, "Oh, he's from Manhattan? Well, slap my ass and call me Mamie."
Yeah.
Oh, that was wonderful. And yeah, when he was doing, well, how would a constable from Nova Scotia, would he point like this? No, he would do it like this, not like this, like this, not this. And Oliver's like, can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Too much for Oliver.
But, do you think maybe, just maybe, and maybe I'm thinking about this too much, maybe he was like so upset it wasn't Charles and he missed him so much that Matthew Broderick just pissed him off and annoyed him more? Because I feel like Oliver would appreciate an actor like that. But
I know.
He was
it's
grumpy
okay.
and missing his bestie.
Yeah.
And it bled through.
Yeah.
I think 100%. That was like, he's not Charles. It's not the same.
Oh.
No. And when Oliver was going, he was kicking him to the curb and he brought him to the door, and there was Charles standing there. Did you notice that he said he doesn't exist? He doesn't have parents, etc., which I thought was an interesting choice of words because the parent theme this season. And then he said I could hit the delete key and he would be gone, eradicated from the musical, like a rat in a microwave. I was like, okay, we just went there, didn't we?
Oh, that is a terrible image.
Yes.
I mean, I thought a pork chop in a microwave was bad, but then you're talking rats in a microwave.
No.
Also,
that I was not on that episode. That's when, was I sick? I don't know what I can't remember.
With Jerry Blau.
That's the thing. With the way Loretta prepared dinner, I was like, I am offended. This is awful.
Okay. I mean, I've never prepared a pork chop in my life. Never eaten a pork chop.
Slow smoke it. Don't microwave it.
She said she could zap a perfectly pink one in her microwave, and I was like, I did, but should you though? Just because you can, does that mean you should?
I just thought of the whole stereotype or whatever about white people and bland food. Like, my family's Cajun. We season our food. And I could not, the whole time I was like, that must be the worst meal Oliver has ever had.
Oh yeah. He's got a shiny tooth to prove it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, it's solid, so there's that. Is not a fan. Love chewing on chop. So but the rat thing reminded me that there was, again, on Only Murders in the Pod. It's a great listen. A lot of behind the scenes stuff. They interview the director from the previous episode, Chris Koch, about the rat thing with Gary.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so
we
gross.
were all confused about, remember we said these lines where he was like talking about, he said, go home to your boyfriend or your husband, and he's like, and eat his food. There's like a big thing about this killing of the rat, and he does it in such a way that he looks, got these like hungry eyes, and then he says to Oliver, you came on a good night. And they kept that in. So apparently there was a whole thing that was filmed where he took that rat and threw it on the grill, grilled it up, and after it had been filmed, the producer said, no, can't fly. This,
oh my God,
have this rat on the, it's a bridge too far. And so they had to go back and paint it out of every frame and just
Thank God.
cut the whole rat on the grill thing. But I found that and because we said, I think that this something about this scene felt weird because was it cut out of something that was a longer bit that would have made more sense? And in fact, it was. So I was happy to learn that.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad they cut that out.
Me too.
I think it would have been funny, but it just would have served to be more concerning because Jerry's clearly not doing well. There's a lot of mental concern going on with Charles and Jerry. I'm like, are these people, are we okay here?
Yeah.
We need to have a talk. So
it's so funny though.
So Charles comes over. And so, yeah, when Oliver fires Matthew Broderick, he what?
He was peeking. He was there. Poor Lord.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to be in the show. I just want to hang out. It was so cute. Then my most marvelous moment was right here with Oliver apologizing to Charles. And it was so sweet. And he does this horse imitation.
By a horse. Maybe he was. But I'm guessing that horse enjoyed himself on set that day because he got to spend it with Charles Hayden Savage, who was probably kind to him and fed him a fistful of oats out of his palm. And I bet that horse didn't realize how good he had it until he had another scene partner on another set who just rode him and 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 rode him. Until he couldn't take it anymore. And I bet that horse wishes he could say sorry, but he can't. Not because he's a horse, because he's a little messed up emotionally. So all he can do is hate himself and wish he were dead for hurting his best friend and that someone would turn him into glue. Apology accepted.
Okay, I'll do the play.
Oh, it's so, we love to see it, you know?
The delivery of any more.
He rode him and rode him and rode him. So I can take it anymore.
That's commitment, Martin Short. Like that was
so good.
Excellent. I lost it watching that the first time. I think I
was dead.
It was way late. I watched it way too late and I was already kind of deliriously tired and that absolutely destroyed me. I could not stop laughing.
And it was so sweet when they hugged.
I know. And the way he he just hung on to him for dear life. The way he embraced him, I was like, oh, it's beautiful.
I ship them. They don't need
absolute.
No, goodbye, Loretta. Bye, Joy. Just so
what was their name? Cholliver?
I was just thinking that Cholliver.
Yeah.
Not Laurels.
Laurels.
No, Cholliver. I like Cholliver.
Yeah.
Good.
Precious.
Yeah.
It just made the end, though, more sad to me when they realized that, Mabel had moved out.
I know.
I was like, oh, no, we've got 2 out of 3.
I can't take another episode of them all split up. Please, no. Not. I hope at the very beginning of the next episode, they all get the band back together. I need this to happen.
So.
Yeah.
I need more trio time.
Yeah.
For sure.
But so they get a little wasted on some gut milk and Oliver ends up showing Charles Loretta's book and Charles goes, well, I don't think she did it. And Oliver's like, well, God, good, great. That means she's the killer.
Yeah.
Let the record show.
Yeah. Just like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. But yeah, so okay, so then this really does lead us right into Mabel. So Mabel got a lot going on this episode. This was a very Mabel focused episode.
Love it.
So Theo is back.
Yay, Theo.
Yay. Look up the actor's name. I forgot to do it. So he's helping her pack. They've become friends. They have remained friends. This is joyous. And they're just so cute together doing like sign language and
I love their friendship.
I love their friendship.
Such
their chemistry
great
together.
Chemistry. Sorry, Jade, we're doing it again. But like, it's true.
I know. Okay, wait, calm down.
But they had excellent friendship chemistry. Like I felt that their friendship was lived in, and
yes,
I think
me too.
Part of why I liked this episode so much. Like it was
same here.
So good to see him back and see a friendship dynamic play out.
Okay, so before we move on, anything more about Oliver?
So yeah, I just want to just note that our trio, or not our trio, at least Oliver and Charles are using things to like, oh, maybe I'll offer this to give him as like, oh, I'll bring the hanky so he could talk to him, or
Peace offering.
a peace offering, or oh, we'll take this so we could talk to Mabel, because they both realized that they lost touch with Mabel. The way so I just noticed that's how they're doing it. They have a hard time expressing themselves. Like,
I mean, they're boomers.
Yeah.
So it's like precious.
And they do very well for boomers. Let's say, let's give them a round of applause. Credit where credit is due. Yes.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
No. Obviously, I squealed when Mel Brooks popped up.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
That was delightful.
And he looks pretty good for 97.
Yes, he does.
He's looking good. But I love Mel Brooks and Martin Short and Steve Martin. So
this is so funny.
Didn't get a chance to see.
What? You never saw the producers?
Well, I was busy at the time.
It ran for 6 years. Over 2,500 performances. And you never got a chance to see it?
Yeah, well, the times never worked out for me. Anyway.
It's like, I just slept. It ran for 6 years.
I know.
Like, how did you just miss it? And the fact
and why would you admit it?
Right? Mm-hmm. It's the producers, first of all. And two, you're talking to Mel. Like, just pretend.
But I felt like Mel was on his level, though. He's talking to him.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are peers. Yes. And I do think it's fun to see and be reminded how important Oliver is, and he is well known in the theater world. And gosh, I wish we got more of Mel Brooks, but I will take any little bit.
And he was a surprise. I was like, oh, Mel Brooks. I love it.
He zoomed it in. He pulled up that zoom from wherever he was in the world. Thank you, Mel. We appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's get into Mabel, because we got a lot of Mabel this episode. There was so many clues, so much progression, I feel, with the Taubert storyline as well. So let's get into it. We get the return of Theo. James Caverly is back, and this made me so happy. I love their chemistry.
Too.
They're so cute together. Doing the sign language. They've clearly remained friends. He's helping her pack. It was adorable.
It really was.
I just have to note, one of my notes is, why is Theo the only smart one? Like, I just I have this specific, like, I don't understand why this guy who is not involved in all their different things is like the only one to kind of get the
I think that helps though. Like, he's he's not as engrossed in it, and sometimes you need that outsider perspective for something to click. Plus,
so true.
Having one of your senses, this unavailable to you, it forces you to become more aware and observational, and I think that helps Theo tremendously. And he seems to be very intuitive, and Mabel and Charles and Oliver all really need that.
Absolutely. He is a great addition to the Scooby-Doo team. I'm loving it.
Love. I also love that Mabel makes mistakes with ASL, because I think that's quite authentic and believable, versus like, all of a sudden funny.
Did you guys pick up that the sign for nerd is literally this, pushing up your glasses? That was so funny to me.
Oh man.
So Theo knows that Dickie is having a silent auction for Ben's movie stuff. Of course, the deaf person would know about the silent auction, but that was funny. I'll be here all week. Try the salmon. So Mabel's like, brilliant plan. Let's talk to Dickie. Then Mabel and Theo go to Ben's apartment, and I really loved the part where Theo's signing to Mabel, like, what to say and how to. She's like, CoBro 2 is my favorite, my favorite CoBro film because of the Jamaican accent. And he's just like, what? Not at all.
Well, when she was repeating what Theo said, because clearly Theo is a very big fan of CoBro, and he attributed a deeper meaning to it than I think we may have expected. But when she was repeating that to Dickie, kind of, trying to seem authentic and impress him, the way Dickie responded, that I was like, he wrote it. Okay.
I got that too.
Yes.
I felt like Kara right there. I'm like, I'm turning it to Kara and Jade.
Yep.
I
love it. But
yeah,
he
I was a little
so
ahead of this.
Proud. Basically, it was just like, oh, you caught that. I was like, Dickie, you son of a bitch. Like, you did this. I don't know. There was so much in that whole scene, all of the silent auction stuff in Ben's apartment. I felt like I needed to go back and
I definitely want to go back. I can't wait to watch it in high definition and see what we missed.
More CoBro eggs that look like Jade eggs?
I didn't. Were there more?
Yeah, it's at like 21:48-ish is when she's talking to Dickie, and it's in the background. There's a pencil cup or a pen holder, and then some sort of, it looks like one of those Catholic saint candles in front of them, but you can see the
Ben Jesus candle. Yeah, that's great.
So I was just like, man, I don't know, like that could be absolutely nothing, but I definitely
it could be
clocked
something.
them. I was like, oh, there's more.
So Dickie says that he won't give Mabel a juicy story. He's like, if you're barking up the wrong tree, if you're trying to get me to say something good for your podcast, or if you want to sell a story. And he's like, everyone's trying to make a buck off Ben. And then he literally turns and he goes, hey, there's a minimum bid on this.
Yes.
Yep.
I love that.
And then the very next moment that we see with him, he's really confiding so many details. And so I don't know if this is a writing weird choice, or if this is a clue that maybe he's spilling his guts to Mabel for a reason. Because he really puts Ben down by saying all these things. He's got I covered up. He was like Ben's fixer. So we get so many clues about Dickie here. It was like I couldn't have written things down fast enough. I was like, furiously pause, wait, gotta write it all down what he said. So
it was like, what do you say? With not having subtitles on screeners,
I know
it's hard.
So he cleaned up his messes, he covered up all of his stuff, he was his fixer. He was always, second, kind of like Jan and Poppy, overlooked child. He was the adopted child.
Exactly.
Yeah. When they thought they couldn't have kids.
Right. Yeah. And then Miracle Ben shows up and just steals the show, literally and figuratively. And he had these DUIs, the offensive jokes, the dick pics, the copious dick pics. And Mabel was like, I never heard of any dick pic. Where can I? She's like pulling out her phone, like,
like, oh, where did I miss that?
Dick pics, you say? I thought that was funny. Mabel's like,
that was cute.
And so he says, so yeah, I don't know if this is to be read into more or not. I have a feeling that it might be a writing oversight, that they might have just not noticed that they contradicted themselves completely. But like, why would he open up so much to Mabel after saying, I'm not going to do that,
Was it when she said, because right before he started talking to her, she went up to him and she apologized, and she said, like, we shared that she lost a lot of people. And maybe that was like his breaking point, like where he's like, he had to just let it all.
So there's a phenomenon essentially in, I guess, criminology, when there's this compulsion that people have to confess. And you can get right up to the line sometimes of admitting something, and most of the time people, especially if they're feeling any sort of guilt or resentment about what they've done,
right,
if you are offering a empathetic ear, you're willing to listen, and you make some sort of connection, things will just start to spill out. And that's how I saw it with Dickie here, whether or not he felt guilty because he had something to do with Ben's death, or just because, I'm sure he felt a great deal of relief when Ben died. He talks about that, I think.
Right.
And he probably feels guilty about that, even if he didn't have anything to do with his death. So
he clearly feels guilty. There's a lot of guilt going on. We get that a lot from Dickie. Every time we cut to him alone, he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Like, yeah.
Part of it is obviously a writing convenience, but Mabel also empathized with him and was genuine in her apology, and he needs to talk about this.
Right.
So I think it just started coming out of him, and it was very interesting to hear.
But you know,
for sure.
Just thinking about, like, he said he spent his life protecting Ben. So he could be guilty for not protecting him when that happened. Or it could be because he actually is guilty of killing him.
So many ways to view it and spin it once again.
Yeah, Ben was basically his job, is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he has, he says this line, "A person's a collection of 1,000 little details, and when they're gone, those are the things you miss the most."
I love that.
Made me think of Uma because of the collections of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is that theme. And it really, just to stop and say, everyone, appreciate those you love now while they're here. Because you never know. You just never know. Life is crazy. Life is weird. Life is all too short. So
it's
text your
funny.
grandma.
I was going to say, when he said that, I thought of my grandpa, my mom's dad, and he passed away when I was 4. I had just turned 4. But I remember, like, he had the best, like, big gap tooth smile, and I can still see that. And he would do this, like, funny face. And I'm not going to do it because it'll look ridiculous, but I can picture just that in my head. And when he talked about 1,000 details, I was like, God, that's true. Like, you never know what is going to stick out and stay with you, which is why I went back and forth about how I feel about Dickie.
Yeah.
This whole episode.
Yeah,
totally. So,
I agree.
So we get to these clues. He loved the green tea boba, funny dog videos, and Ben's watch was 20 minutes early. Now I cannot actually, I'm going to talk about that more in theories.
Yeah.
The watch thing, because this really does lead into everything to do with theories. So so just the facts here, ma'am. Greg has been following Ben for years. Dickie, he says that he very much thinks it was Greg. It has to be Greg. He's very insistent about this. So then we get the cops say that Ben died at 12:06, really 12:26, and later Mabel revelations. So Agatha Christie, so we'll talk about it more in theories, but
that was great.
So Mabel and Taubert are investigating with Theo, and Greg 100% sure is not the killer. So let's talk about Taubert here. Talk about Taubert.
Erica, I know. The whole time I was sitting there, like, giggling and just falling more and more for Taubert, especially, like, I thought it was so cute. One, ridiculous. I was offended.
You were falling more.
I'll explain.
I was like,
I'll explain. So I was back and forth. Look, he is beautiful. I love
Jesse Williams. He's a very handsome, attractive person, but no.
I still don't trust him. I was just very attracted to him during this episode. But when he shows Mabel the art that he put together for the
most male
Bloody Mabel, I was just like, what the fuck, man? I was starting to really like you. Like, that is so off base. And her reaction, and he's immediately like, yeah, it's a terrible idea. It must have been like some fan art or something. Like, that was very cute. Like, I think he played that off very well, but it's just so obtuse. And that made me question him. I was like, you have terrible judgment if you thought Mabel was gonna go for that.
The most male gazy possible image he possibly could have made. And Mabel is just like,
tongue.
No, so much no to this.
No, but that links, the Bloody Mabel links to Cinda Canning. And I know when I listened to your theories, I'm like, yes. I think that he's a plant.
I agree.
He's really pushing this Bloody Mabel podcast, isn't he?
But I will say, I absolutely loved his interactions with Theo and how they were essentially bonding over, Mabel being kind of hard to read sometimes. And the sign language where Theo walks in and is immediately like, oh, you didn't tell me about his eyes. And
wait, what? You didn't tell me about his eyes?
Yeah, Theo, because he sees Tobert for the first time, and he's looking at Mabel and basically saying, like, you didn't tell me how attractive this guy was. You didn't tell me how beautiful his eyes were. Like, that moment. And
I'm like, is this a line? And this is just Kara's inner monologue, everyone.
No, that he says it. He says it.
Wait, Theo does?
Yeah, I'll find the timestamp because he signs it to Mabel, like, oh, you didn't tell me about his eyes. And then Tobert asks what he says, and Mabel.
Oh, that moment. That's what he
up.
said. Okay. That was one of the things I missed because we didn't have enough time to keep going back and rewatching. I didn't catch that. Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
It was very, very cute. And when he kind of slides the piece of paper over to Tobert saying, like, I have a hard time figuring her out too. I liked how friendly he was with Tobert. That's what I went back and forth on him. Like, the bloody Mabel thing completely turned me off.
Yeah.
But then he was charming the rest of the episode and helpful. And I was just like, damn it.
This is
what gets me in trouble in life.
Yeah.
that whole scene, again, I didn't do a rewatch of the previous episode, but was there a mention of them doing a podcast together? Like, I was kind of like, wait, what? They're doing a podcast now? Okay. I think I must have missed that. But also I remember that, like, it kind of like was kind of glaring to me when, the equipment that Tobert brought, which was a lot more expensive that she was used to. And it just kind of felt like I kept on, like, remember, I was like, you guys were in my head when you were talking about syndicating. I'm like, well, maybe that's where that's where they're getting it. But yeah.
Access to the expensive equipment. Yeah. That's possible. That I didn't
definitely want to talk about that in theories.
Theories.
Sure.
I think Theories is a theme song.
Yeah. Ooh, Theories theme. We do need that.
You said theories, and for some reason, memories from Cats popped into my head. Theories. Like, perfect. Great.
That's actually not bad.
Guys, if you can't tell, we love theater.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen.
Yep. Welcome to the Theater Appreciation Show.
Acting.
The Theater Appreciation Show after show.
Just don't do it like Matthew Broderick or Oliver.
Gosh. Oh, buddy.
So okay. So Theo brings this CoBro drawing, and Dickie invented CoBro, surprising no one. We already knew that this was coming. Literally, CoBro. It was staring us right in the face. And
I still don't think he's a twin.
No. And so then Mabel says, okay, but first we have all this stuff. Okay, but first we got to record a podcast and get you out of jail. And I love that recording podcast equals fight crime. I love that that's all they need to do to, like, exonerate this gentleman, this man, is to just got to record a podcast and the cops will act. So great.
Yeah, this is where I have to suspend my disbelief.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The influence they have on these detectives throughout all seasons.
And Greg also was a kidnapper, and he was like threatening them and like to harm them. That was
aggravated kidnapping.
Yes. I'm like I had a couple comments about that.
Like in Texas, I don't know, like, every state has different penal codes, different elements to certain crimes, different punishments. But in Texas, what he did is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Yeah. So the whole time I was like, they just let him out. Like, he still committed other crimes.
Stalking.
Yeah. So that's a big one.
And I don't know, like, he wasn't pretending to be like an officer, but he was saying he was security. I don't know if impersonating a security guard is something, but they did say when they noticed the comic book, like, it panned onto Greg. I noticed that, like, intentional filming was into that. Yeah.
And on the comic, when Jesse Williams is like, "Oh no, Ben Glenver, that's a B for Ben. Don't you know?" I was like, "You're such a
Yeah, bad liar, bad liar."
But then Mabel goes, "Yeah, some guys' names actually start with an R."
I did like that.
That was funny.
That was a good one.
That reminded me, Dickie, that whole scene where he's talking about, being insistent that Greg was the killer. He took his eye off of him for, just a minute, and he ended up killing Ben. It had the same sort of, I don't know, vibe as when we talked about Tobert being insistent that it was Greg, where that could mean he just was ignorant and willing to believe it, or he really needed Greg to be responsible because he had some sort of culpability. So it's the same thing with Dickie. I was like, okay, is this brother actually having genuine guilt and resentment, truly believing that Greg is responsible for his brother's death? Or does he know how much influence Mabel has, that Mabel is clearly fishing around and he needs to put on a damn good front to, throw off suspicion of him?
That's what I just don't know. I just do not know how much we should believe anything Dickie says at all.
I don't know. I don't know. I told you I don't like Tobert.
I
don't like Tobert.
Yeah, we can.
I felt like he is there to sway.
We should talk about this in theories.
We shall.
And unfortunately, Erica, I think I'm starting to get on board with not trusting him. I would still.
You could still lust after him. Look at Jan.
Yeah. There it is.
True. Jesse Williams, it's his fault. He's just too pretty. I blame him.
Probably on purpose as well. It's hard
Charming
to believe
motherfucker.
The pretty murderer.
Pretty murders in the building.
It is so much harder. Mild tangent, but when you have an attractive defendant, it is so much harder to convict.
What about that one guy? What was his name? He became a model. He was like a really horrible person. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
He's like he's pretty like Jesse Williams. Like he's got striking
he actually looks
eyes.
kind of similar. I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm
talking
talking about.
Remember who that was?
He's like I don't know,
his
criminal bay or
like
something.
Viral.
Yeah.
But no, we would have to actively voir dire on that sometimes. Or
I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, I agree, Siri.
I'm sure, Siri. So in jury selection, you have to kind of, call certain things to potential jurors' attention and cover them. And when you have like a stunningly attractive defendant, you have to call attention to it and talk about people's natural biases towards like attractive people, pretty people, and break it down, because damn, you will get a not guilty so fast, because everybody will be charmed by them, and it happens way too frequently.
Interesting.
All right, so can I just say really quickly, so this expensive equipment and everything, and not knowing how to put a podcast together, Oliver doesn't know how to send a text, right?
I know.
The idea, I laughed out. I was like, ha, the absurdity, because it makes me happy, because if Oliver's the one editing all of this, as I am Oliver, it's exactly my job in our little podcast trio. Like I'm the editor. I'm the, the one who kind of organizes it. And when Tobert was saying, what kind of software does he use? And Mabel's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm sorry, y'all out there. Do you know how long it took Jade? I do not, technology and I, no. That's a hard no. We do not like each other. At learning to edit a podcast and how to create and make a podcast, it damn near broke me, y'all. I got to the point where I was like, if this is what I have to do to podcast, I don't think that I might not be able to podcast anymore. I can't. Like, I hate editing, and it's fine now. I'm pretty smooth with it, but learning how to do it, I'm sorry, no. In no reality is Oliver doing this. It's just no.
He's paying somebody now.
And then my notes just say LOL. Mabel, I'll just record this podcast on my phone. LOL. That's literally my notes. The absurdity.
That's cute.
Yeah, you don't record a podcast on your phone and have it be successful. Nope, that does not occur. So funny
People
things.
will write in and complain about the audio immediately.
Oh yeah. People People have audio complaints even when your audio is good and you work really hard at it. So that was funny. Gotta love TV Land. TV Land logic. So anyway, getting to the end here, Mabel's moved out. She releases the podcast on her own. There's another woman in Mabel's apartment holding the most obviously fake baby I've ever seen on television. That
she was such a bitch.
Oh yeah.
I'm not paying to unfuck your hernias. I was like, what?
I know, it was so weird.
Yeah, she was not supporting that baby's head at all.
It was so
that
funny.
was clearly a small baby. I was like,
Ew.
And then we see Dickie has Ben's hanky, paid $7,000 for it. Why? In God's name, why? Got that kind of money. It must be nice. And then the cops, we see this cop guy. I forget his name, probably unimportant. Why do we need another police detective, by the way? Why can't it just be Detective Williams? Why? I really
don't know.
want
did
it
they
to just
ever
be her.
explain that? Because if she
No.
moved to like another division or got promoted, then maybe she wouldn't be working directly on the case anymore. But
They never explained it in story. It's
No.
possible that I think her name is Joy Divine. I love her so much.
Yeah.
She is. I just love her. I really wish it was just her, but it must be a thing where they couldn't have gotten the actor
yeah,
available.
scheduling.
Yeah, but it's fine
Unfortunate.
because the cops are like very much not a thing in this season. Where is Mabel living? Big questions. We do not know. Why
She's
would
not
you
living with Topper? That's too soon.
Oh, I don't think so. I do not think so.
Better not be.
I hope she's living with Theo.
That'd be great.
I would like that. That'd be cute.
Oh, I hope there's more
Theo.
Theo.
And Theo moved out. He moved out of the building,
That's
right?
true.
Didn't he?
Oh, I bet you're right. I bet
to
they
get
are
away from
working
Teddy.
together.
So
Yeah.
so his father paid for his apartment somewhere else. His father had Teddy had the apartment in the building. I don't think Theo's apartment was ever in the building. So because you remember in season 2 when Mabel goes there after she has her stabbing,
Yeah, you're right.
on the train, her knitting needle glitter guy stab
Oy.
moment.
Bloody Mabel.
Yep, Bloody Mabel. Who signs off on a podcast? Hashtag your podcast name. That was like, is that a thing? Maybe we should do that.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Hashtag perfectly marvelous.
It's just so funny. Like this was clearly written by people who are older than millennial, Gen Z, whatever age, because the youngins don't say that. That was funny though. But see, these are the things that like the writing is hilariously nonsensical. It's silly.
It's silly.
It cracks me up. I love it. Please more. Don't stop. Don't
Yeah.
stop. So then ending credits photo, we see Bloody Mabel. And all I could think is just Selena Gomez is so sexy with that knife in her mouth.
I know. I was just like, I'm no better than a man.
Yeah. No, me neither. Not at all. And then we see this Ben Glenroy bar/bat mitzvah DJ doll, including body glitter and limbo pole. I saw this in
funny.
it's in Greg's apartment, and I didn't mention it when we talked about Greg's apartment, but that was very funny. And apparently the reason for this is it's a homage to Paul Rudd, who was a bar mitzvah DJ in real life, which I did not. Apparently there's video evidence of this available. Google
I'm
away.
going to be looking that up.
So, anything more to say about this episode? We're sad that our trio is separated.
The only thing that I will say, I meant to mention it when we were talking about Dickie buying that handkerchief. When you look at that last scene, or I don't know if it's the last scene of the episode or close to the end, when he's holding it and staring at it and kind of turning it over, it looks like there are bloody fingerprint on it, so I'm assuming that they wanted us to see that. But I don't know, I stopped it at one point and was trying to figure out like if there was a certain pattern or if we could tell anything from it, and all I can think about now is somebody in props like putting their false bloody fingerprints on it.
I was disturbed by the thought of Uma had that just kicking around in a purse.
I was so grossed out by that.
Got a bloody handkerchief.
I was just like, bitch, that's
blood.
Evidence. She committed a felony. Like,
and
turn
also
that shit over to police.
It's also blood. Like, it wasn't in a sealed plastic baggie.
Yeah,
bodily fluids are gross.
Not handling it with like gloves or anything.
Don't touch those things, Uma.
But Dickie also was handling it with that. So I was like, is that your blood, Dickie? Like, is there a reason you're comfortable holding?
Well, no, it's got to be Ben's blood. He used blood all over his body,
but there's fingerprints. What if somebody like?
Yeah, the fingerprint blood marks are
him?
strange.
Like I that sent me through a loop.
Okay,
that they were bloody. Okay,
we're getting into theories now. We're gonna move on to our theories portion. Cue theories all alone in the podcast. Cue the theme music. So, theory time. Put your theory caps on. Put your theory beret on. All right, Erica, what you got?
So I feel this episode really, like I said, I like looked for like clues to how to kind of cross people off the list of like it's obvious. I already said like there is clues about Howard, like okay, he's definitely was not near the elevator at the time of Ben's murder.
Yes, that was a good one. That was a good call.
And then I know, and obviously Uma wasn't one of ours, but we know Uma wasn't there, but she's a witness. I think that I am leaning towards the Dickie is guilty, but guilty because he feels like he didn't protect Miracle Ben. Like there's that brother's guilt, that guilt of not taking care of the more loved sibling, and it's painful, and I sympathize. And I think even the end, because even though he's the one who purchased the hanky, I don't think if he was purchasing it to get rid of evidence, I think he would not have been holding it that way. I really am now one, we don't know anything about Bobo still. KT's still kind of questionable. Cliff and Donna are still questionable, but I still am going to stick with my gut that Tobert is involved now, even more so. I don't know if he's want to push him, but I think that he is there intentionally to either protect the real murderer or he was the murderer. So, and I really,
and why? And what's the thing that really makes you say that?
Because I think it's tying Cinda Canning into it. I think Cinda Canning is our big bad of this entire series. And I really do.
I think it.
She's the criminal mastermind.
I think she's a criminal mastermind. She was involved in all the murders in some way, at least not intentionally, but like she podcasted about the first one.
Yeah.
She tried to kind of gain what's the word, like she tried to capitalize on the original murder. And then of course let's look into what happened to poor Bunny, and the involvement was Poppy, and now like this, like she's like a criminal villain mastermind from like James Bond or something. She's really evil in a very subtle, very genius way.
Manipulative as hell.
Yes. And
so is Tobert. And the manipulation, he's really pushing this Bloody Mabel podcast, which very was much Cinda's invention.
Exactly. So I think I feel very safe to think that that's it. I don't trust him. He grosses me out. He skews me. He is extremely attractive, but he's letting it slip out. He's seeming to like, oh yeah, I'm like this cute guy. I'm trying to do like, to get, he knows how to get Mabel. Mabel is a sucker for like, for attention, and no, I don't mean attention, but like anybody who's treating her in a way, like trying to say, oh, I see you, Mabel, I want to help you.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty sure that our friend over here,
all right,
and his stupid name.
So the who is the Tobert, the how is the, we don't know yet if he pushed or not, if he pushed Ben to his death.
Yeah.
The why is because to help Cinda Canning. The why now, I guess again,
it could be revenge. It could be revenge, or it could be
Cinda's revenge.
Yeah,
Cinda's revenge on Mabel. So you're thinking this is more of like a Cinda Mabel thing, or a Cinda Only Murders in the Building podcast?
It's a possibility. I think that's like, and I think that even with her cold open, I think it was quite intentional. She's all in white, which is, representative, like, purity and a rebirth. Like I think she's cleansing. No, she's, the mother alien is growing back up, and she's going to come back and get her. Yeah. Queen Bitch is coming back.
Her rebranding is not quite working out as she would have hoped.
Right, right. All right, Kara, what you got?
I'm kind of along the same lines that Cinda is involved. I still think, for the most part, what I had said last episode about Cinda and this being a bigger plot than we see right now. I could see Cinda and Tobert somehow being connected. I could also see Dickie being on board to a certain extent. Maybe he changed his mind at some point because he, I don't think the Jade egg thing is a coincidence entirely at this point. It could be, but the fact that she made a reference to it, the fact that he threw that so angrily, who knows, like that could have been directed at Cinda. Like that could have been tied into this.
Maybe it's like a Faust
plot
kind of thing. Maybe it's like a Faust, like he signed his soul to the devil and said it's the devil.
And he could be regretting that. And who knows, maybe he backed out of some plot or plan that they had. I could see Cinda, being in with Tobert and Tobert being able to capitalize on, Ben's fame and inevitable murder attempt. And I think it's quite possible that Cinda, Dickie, and Tobert were at least involved in the initial attempt. The
initial attempt to whatever made Ben collapse on stage.
Yes. Whether that be poison cookies or whatever. I think there's that plot
that was more
against him.
That was more Tobert Cinda is what you're saying.
Yes. And Dickie would be, I could see him willing to go along with it just because of how much resentment he had. He didn't get credit for CoBro. This his whole life. He has been in Ben's shadow, but clearly he still has, it's his, his brother he was raised with. And I don't think he's an evil person. So I could see him either trying to back out or being on board in order to, get Ben either out of the picture or distracted and changing his mind. But I think that's separate from the whole elevator situation. I still think Dickie is Loretta's child. We had a couple more, parental references in this episode. I don't think he knows that Loretta is his mother. I don't think that's in play yet. But I don't think I'm on board with Loretta being the actual killer anymore in any way, shape, or form. I do think she is going to somehow sacrifice herself for Dickie, because I think there have been multiple kind of Easter eggs and hints of this mother's love and sacrifice throughout the show. And I think that's where they're going with it. It would make sense to me. So I'm still on board with her somehow being involved in that way.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the elevator shaft and him actually being killed, I think those bloody fingerprints are not his, unless he was, let's say.
It is strange how those fingerprints were. I didn't even really think about it too much until you just brought it up. Like why
bunched?
the blood was, it almost, like you were saying, it looks like a prop person dipped their hand into red blood and just touched. Yeah. It's like a plant.
It's possible that Ben went upstairs, he left the hospital against medical advice. Maybe he was still a little delirious, still under the influence of something. And if he was coughing up blood again or something, maybe he wiped his mouth and picked up the handkerchief, fell down the elevator shaft. Don't think that's likely, but that's possible. I think it's more likely that he was confronted by someone and there was either some sort of struggle and this person accidentally or intentionally shoves him and kills him. The thing that I keep going back and forth about is, where did that blood come from? And I went back, I was like, I don't remember anybody having a cut that we didn't notice. Like there was no subtle mention.
Might have to look at the party again.
Yeah. But maybe, I don't know, like KT or Bobo, we still, like you were saying, we don't know a lot. Yes.
And
at
Ty.
all. Like we don't know a lot
It's
about
Ty.
them.
I don't know that they're going to
So-
come into play. I think they're just kind of set dressing.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, I don't have a who as to who actually actively killed him, but I
So
do
this is
think
an Agatha
Cinda's
Christie.
involved.
It's an Agatha Christie thing, a trick to stuff the cast. Like
Mhm.
Death on the Nile, good example.
yeah.
It is just as obvious as it seems, and then there's all of this story, extraneous side plot, distraction, yeah, like
Mhm.
fluff,
Mhm.
filler. And those are actually the Agatha Christie's that I find the least exciting to read, because when you have that many characters, they get a little archetypal, they get a little flat, a little,
Agreed.
there's not a whole lot to them, and just not that interesting, and to the point where you can almost tell as you're reading certain passages, like, this is just kind of a waste of time, just meant
Mhm.
to distract me from the real meaty plot that is
Yeah.
the murder.
Mhm.
And when it comes to this show, I love these side characters. I do. Don't get me wrong. The acting is great, but I can kind of tell, I think at this point, we're in season 3, there's a little bit of a formula. And like we had last episode with Howard and KT, it is kind of presenting, this is this is a suspect, and now we're going to give you an entire episode as to why it's not them. I haven't
Yeah.
ruled out KT. Obviously, you can't
Yeah.
completely rule it out, but we've ruled out Howard. We've ruled out
Mhm.
Jonathan. I
Yeah.
don't think that Ty is going to come into play at all. I don't know. Maybe he's going to, in the
I-
11th hour, all of a sudden we'll
I
hear from
know.
Ty.
Like, who's
He
this
literally
guy?
he has not spoken a word except I'm
I
Ty
know.
at the
Yeah.
the first table read.
It
And he's like,
just
this guy's so attractive.
I
I'm Ty.
totally could see, Cinda wanting to get back at the Only Murders podcast, somehow wanting to either interfere with them or capitalize on them. Ben is this big star. He's living in the building. Let's say they start sleeping together. Maybe she's, using him.
You said this last time. I really get the sense that Cinda is not, that she's just kind of Tina Fey callback because love to see it.
That's why
I don't know. I don't
who
know why I get
knows?
that sense. And I can't really base it in any evidence other than just the formula of the show. They're bringing some
Yeah.
people back because it's
Mhm.
fun. And yeah, I'm not that suspicious of Cinda. I don't
Yeah.
know that she's got a lot to it. Also, because of what you're saying about the Jade egg being the Jade egg that she mentioned in her privates, there was something that was said, and I don't want to burst your bubble here because it's a major thing that you're going on with the Cinda relation, because it is sort of similar. There's an
Well, and that's
mention
true
of the
because
Jade egg. There's a
I
green
have
egg.
not been looking at articles or anything
Mhm.
like that, so I have no idea what is actually going on.
There was interviews with the directors or the writers, might have been with John Hoffman, I can't remember, on Only Murders in the Pod, and they talked about how Tina Fey did so much improv when she was she got the script, and when she was podcasting in her little intro there, she was saying, I did this and I worshipped my vulva and I blah blah blah. And then he just, after she had done all the scripted lines, he just said, okay, go be Tina Fey and just be amazing and come up with stuff on your own. And he couldn't remember at the time when he was interviewed. He was like, I forget what actually made it into the episode, but she had something where Tina Fey came up with a mention of a jade egg in her privates, and that was so funny to me. So it actually could be just a Tina Fey invention, and then a coincidence that there's this egg-like shape
that's
thing.
Jade.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't ever said it was jade. It's just a green egg, so it wasn't like called a jade, anything.
I still think Dickie and Taubert I still think it could be some sort of plot, or Donna.
We didn't talk a whole lot about it in our discussion, but we did get more Donna and Cliff finally for the first time in a while. What did
And
you guys
I want
think?
more. They were great. They're just
so great.
They really bring a lot in the little bit that they're there, but it wasn't. I feel like it just kind of reinforced that that Donna is the upper hand and she makes all the decisions and choices, but Cliff is the one that kind of saved the day. He's the one who had the connections to
Cliff
Matthew
is
Broderick.
pulling out all the stops, man. He is
Yeah.
doing anything in his power, anything possible to make sure that this musical happens. He is like, this will not die if I have anything to do with it. So the only thing that we know really about Donna and Donna and Cliff, is that they have this weird dynamic, this weird mother-son thing that is questionable, and I do not think, I'm sure he's adopted. or they're just posing as being mother son. And because they get, I don't know, because maybe they get a sexual kick out of it. I'm not sure. But the only thing that we know about Donna is that she doesn't think her son has any good ideas. He's a dumbass. That's
any talent, common sense.
Right.
No talent, because his stress dancing upsets her. He just wants to dance. Let me dance.
Like, everything you do is wrong, so just stop. And
Wonderful.
let me. It's funny to me though that she is helping him produce this show, clearly having zero belief in his abilities. She doesn't think that any of his ideas are going to be good. She discounts him all the time.
Kind of reminds me of Howard and his, memory of his mother after he was in the Crucible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of bad mom action happened in this season.
Critical moms.
So, all right. I have a lot. I've done more research on the play Ashes to Ashes, because as I said last time, that play was not there for no reason. And when you Google it, it gives you, certain little breakdowns. But there was that one breakdown that I found. It says a man interrogates a woman about her lover and involvement in wartime atrocities. The woman's haunted by appalling memories, genocide, deportation, and most disturbingly, a tenderly recalled masochistic erotic relationship with a modern Herod-like infanticide. I don't know how you can have a masochistic erotic relationship with an infanticide, but I think that might be like it might be like a typo. But then it says, in fact, she may never have experienced these things. So this play, I really want to read this play, and hopefully
it's
I'll have
all
time
a
to
dream after Oliver had his heart attack.
So when you look up Herod, King Herod, who appears in Salome, and we see the Salome posters all over the theater. And in the play Salome by Oscar Wilde, Salome is not Herod's sister, but in the Bible, there's talk of King Herod and this massacre of infant boys. That
Massacre of the Innocents.
Right. Yes. Massacre of the Innocents. Yes. So, so King Herod was, when I looked it up, a briefly description of who Herod was in this whole thing that is talked about in the Bible. It's only mentioned in Matthew 2:16, and it's widely debated whether or not this actually ever occurred. So when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, King Herod, who was like a very paranoid, egotistical dictator-like king, he heard of this birth of the new king, and he was freaking out because he can only be king. There's only one king, and it's me. So he ordered because he couldn't find Jesus, no one would tell him where he was. He ordered the death of every boy under the age of 2 in all of Bethlehem. So I found this on a YouTube channel called Desiring God. I'll link the whole video in the description, but there's just a little section of this when they're talking about King Herod that I couldn't ignore the similarity to Only Murders in the Building. So tell me what you think of this.
Successful, but there's another side to Herod. Explain the paranoid side of Herod that begins to emerge later on in his life.
Well, basically, he was responsible for many of the problems back home. His home was a can of worms, simply because he married 10 wives, and each of those produced princes for him, and each of those male princes was scheming to succeed as number one, and there can only be one number one. And so if there weren't 2 or 3 collateral plots taking place before they had orange juice in the morning, something was wrong. Josephus gives us just a hideous tale of what was going on in the family, attempted poisonings, one brother against another. It so rattled Herod that he actually put to death 3 of his own sons on suspicion of treason. He put to death his favorite wife out of the 10 of them. Mariamne was his favorite. She was a Hasmonean Maccabean princess, and he put her to death, and then he killed his mother-in-law. I should have said one of his many mothers-in-law. He invited the high priest down to Jericho for a swim. They played a very rough game of water polo, and they drowned him. He killed several uncles, a couple of cousins. Some have said he's a real family man in that negative respect. As a matter of fact, Augustus himself, to whom Herod was always very deferent, said, I would rather be Herod's pig than his son. It's a double pun. In Greek, it's suos and huios.
Oh, yeah.
A clever turn on words. And the other idea is that at least pigs weren't slaughtered for human consumption over there, and they had a better chance at a longer life. So it was a brilliant pun on the part of Augustus.
Yes.
So there's it just stood out to me, the brothers maybe being against brothers in order to get to the top and to be number one. And when he said brothers poisoning brothers, then there's that whole pig thing. I don't know if this has anything to do. I could be reading way too far into this, but in the Bible, Salome was Herod's sister.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, we also see these Richard II. We also see these Richard II posters, and I'm wondering if maybe that's just a signal that Dickie is obviously Richard Dickie. We make that connection in this episode because the R is actually Dickie's name. The R initial is Richard. So I think that these posters are just telling us Dickie 2. Dickie is number 2. He was second. He could be named after his father. He said he was adopted when he didn't say what age he was when he was adopted, but maybe he was a baby and they renamed him. I don't know.
That's
or it just could be saying that Dickie is second.
He's the second seat.
Putting the theme of all these killers from Jan to Poppy, they want to be number 1. They want to be on the top. Is this too obvious though? Is it too neat and clean to have another?
That's the thing.
But it's not neat and clean because it's been very all this
up in the air.
Is not obvious. You have to really understand why they're.
I know. I feel like it's so obvious to me because I know Shakespeare plays.
Well,
and
there's
I'm doing
so
the research,
many
but
references in all of these plays that are all of these brotherly rivals. It's just almost overwhelming that it seems very clear that Dickie, if Dickie did end up being the murderer, I think in looking at it through a real life lens, he would be the most likely person that would have a motive, either out of anger, or intentionally. It would make sense. I would completely buy that he killed his brother because his brother took credit for everything. His brother was this miracle child. That would make sense. And it's because it's a show that makes me hesitate. That's the only
yeah, me too. Well, because at this point they want us to believe that Dickie did it. All the evidence is kind of pointing to Dickie after this episode, except for the fact that he clearly feels so bent out of shape about it. Whenever we see
conflicted.
Dickie, whenever we see Dickie in private, in his own space when no one else is around, he's upset and he's racked with guilt. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure though if that's. I feel like that there could be a reveal where he knew that Mabel and Taubert were in the armoire all along and he was putting on an act or I can't explain the end with the handkerchief unless all we do see is him in Ben's apartment alone. But I don't know, maybe someone could be watching. I don't know. There could be a twist when turns out that he's actually putting on a facade.
I do think there is just too much to ignore when it comes to brotherly conflict.
Yes. And also in Hamlet, there is the brother thing in Hamlet. I said it last week. Hamlet is very upset with his mother and father for putting on this fake show of grief, not really being sorry for the death of King Hamlet. And when we had all this CoBro, right? The Cobra co-brother, right? Ew. So in Hamlet, there's an analogy that Shakespeare uses to call Claudius a snake in Act 1, Scene 5. Hamlet says, "'Tis given out sleeping in my orchard, a serpent stung me. So the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused. But know, thou noble youth, for the serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown." So they're likening the brother who killed him by pouring the poison into his ear, a snake. Gertrude knows the wine is poisoned at the end. Last week, Kara, you and I were talking about, is there any play references of mothers saving their sons? I don't know. Gertrude drinks the wine to save Hamlet.
That's true.
At the last minute, Gertrude sacrifices herself for her son. So, and also there's a mention of Gertrude in Hamlet where she talks about there's a curse on her She feels like cursed or something. And that's a similarity between Oliver and Loretta, where they both say, well, maybe I'm cursed. They both use that word. And I don't know, it could be Loretta just trying to cozy up to Oliver by saying, oh, we have something in common. Or she could be, I took her to be truthful. I took Meryl Streep to be truthful. So I think, though, getting back to the Salome connection, I think that possibly these Salome posters and Richard II posters are not saying to look into the Shakespeare play. They're just trying to give us a name. They're putting a name in our minds, because Ashes to Ashes has so much of similarity to this infanticide, just like King Herod. Herod had a sister in the Bible. It was Salome. So I think that they're just signifying that Salome is Herod's sister. So in my mind, I'm thinking Dickie had an abusive father, Loretta's brother. I've said this from the beginning. I do not think that Loretta is his mother. I do not think that. There's too much evidence there's nothing pointing to mother. Everything is pointing to, it's like her speech. You were saying a couple of podcasts ago, Kara, she stands right there at the very start of the show and she tells us, this is who I am. She says, I have to be, am I the child's mother? I have to be mother-like. I have to, when it's just me with this child, I have to protect them like a mother would. She never says,
but if she's
is the mother
his
herself,
birth mother, she's not the mother who is, he's not in her charge. So like a mother would, I still took that as,
Yeah, no, it could be either way. You're right. I think that what happened was Loretta took Dickie from away. I think that what happened was Loretta's sister, Dickie's mom, died, and Loretta rescued Dickie from an abusive father relationship.
So you think they know each other, like before all of this, that they are just pretending not to know each other?
Since Ben's casting in the play, I think Loretta has revealed the truth to Dickie. Yes.
Because so when you say rescue.
Oh, no, she rescued him as a child, got him away from this abusive father as a child, got him in to be adopted by Ben's mom.
Okay. So that's where I was like, when you say rescued, you're not saying she took him in
and raised him.
No. She put him up for adoption because she couldn't take care of him. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then she's kept track of him all these years. And then when she got cast in the show, she weaseled her way into those auditions to get cast in the show to be close to Dickie, and then told him who she is.
I will say,
and that probably all happened before Ben died. I think.
Okay.
I still hold on to the idea that Loretta is behind the death of Dickie, and I think it's 2 women and a man. I think it's three murder. Yeah, sorry, Ben. I think it's 2 women and a man. I think it's Dickie, Loretta, and I think Donna has got something.
I could see Donna. I do like. I have nothing at all in the show that I can pinpoint, but I could see Donna being involved. A surprise. But I do like how we've all just automatically kind of silently agreed that Loretta was stalking Dickie and not Ben. Like,
I never once thought it was Ben.
Like we're all just like, no, like thanks, writers, we know what you're doing. But
so when it comes to the whole Ben falling down on stage the first time, I watched that back. And I watched it over and over and over again. And a couple of things stood out to me on rewatching Ben's whole death and then his reemergence at the party. Paul, put up the Ben fog photo. So Ben comes out onto the stage and there's all this like fog and he's coughing a lot. And he looks like he's having a hard time breathing. I don't know if that fog has anything to do with it or whatever, but then there's a moment where Ben comes back at the party and he does this really obnoxious, like strong hacking, like, Ugh! So let me show you what I mean.
You made me just think of something. The fog machine was in that closet bathroom thing that Charles was locked into, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The fog machine comes
hacking
back.
And coughing. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so this is when Ben comes back to the party.
Feel it now, though.
I forgot about that.
Oh, sorry. The nurses, oh my God, they were so
That stands out to me every time I watch it, and I never mentioned it, and I just want to mention it. The fog machine mentions he was coughing on stage before he falls down, and then there's that. I don't know what this means, but it's significant, I feel,
Maybe
in
it's
some way.
KT.
There's also, I know, there's also a weird thing where I've mentioned it before, where Oliver takes Ben's face in his hands and says, Ben, you're alive and you're so soft. I just don't know why you would say that to someone, even though it's Oliver and he says weird shit. It's just such a strange thing to say. I seriously have a feeling that this stuff is going to be significant. Another
Like
thing that I think is
they're not putting these weird lines in for just no reason.
Right. Yeah. It's just so bizarre. All these weird, bizarre things stack up in this first episode when Ben dies. There's another thing that when Ben gives his whole speech, Mabel recorded it. She hits her little record button. I definitely think that that's going to come back around.
We
probably
haven't heard it yet. Yeah,
we
like
haven't heard it.
Absolutely has to be brought up.
So this is why I go back and rewatch these things, because there's a clue in there. If the camera is showing us Mabel is recording this, it's gonna come back and it's
and it was very clear. Like you hear the noise, and you see her put her phone back in. Like,
something that he says in this little speech here is going to be the thing that hinges that pulls it all together, that ties it all in. So okay. So about my whole Dickie thing, I would really love it if Dickie was the killer and just super nefarious and evil. I kind of don't think he is, though. I do firmly believe, as soon as we saw that he wrote CoBro, I was like, I knew it. He wrote Death Rattle.
Rattle.
There's got to be a reason why they are not telling us who wrote this play. It is so bizarre to not have a writer for a Broadway show. It is just bizarre. So the secrecy of that is significant. It's also, significant that CoBro was a secret, that who wrote it. Ben said that it was him, but
I like that idea.
I do too.
It's got to be. And I have a feeling, I was really looking at Cliff this episode. All we know about him, right, is that he's super cute in his little ruffled shirt and his little, he's so cute. And he's also like creepy with his mom, and his mom thinks he's a total dumbass. Yeah. So there's every reason to think, though, that wouldn't it just be if it turns out
he's the third brother,
that Cliff was Dickie's brother. And I don't know how still don't know how this whole story goes. I don't have all the details, but at the end of the day, if Cliff was the criminal mastermind,
I would love that.
Little Cliff just kind of guessing to be, what's the thing that we're not going to expect? And so it's kind of a lame guess, because I'm just guessing against the showrunners. I'm just trying to play this game here of what's the least expected plot line that I can think will be the twist, and
but I
Cliff
like
being
that.
the bad guy,
and he and Dickie working together somehow, or somehow being connected. I could see, just because we don't see them interact at all.
Right, we don't get anything from them.
When you mentioned the CoBro, and I know when we think of I think of two for some reason, just couple,
right?
But I was looking up the Latin meaning. It says just joint.
It could be multiple,
joint and jointed together. So,
if you have co-defendants, that could mean 2 to 25.
Right.
So I think CoBro murderers,
maybe.
Possibly. So then that begs the question, is it there? Because there was that poster that, and actually in the set tour video, we saw a lot more of the set, and we saw that
I saw that menage a trois one,
the crass menage a trois. We really get a clear shot of that. It's 2 women and a man with these big open laughing mouths. So it's possible that Loretta is not involved in this at all. Or, I mean, it's possible that it's instead of 2 women, it's 2 men and a woman, against what the poster is trying to tell us. But I like to think that the poster is sending us some kind of a message.
But look who's next to each other: Donna, Cliff, and KT.
Yeah,
or 2 women and a man.
Yeah.
Now that you brought up the fog machine, KT absolutely 100% is one of the only people who probably be in control of that.
Yeah,
she knows and has access to everything in that theater.
I would love for it to be like the poster and have it be 2 women and a man, but it also could be the 2 brother killers and then a woman helping. So Donna maybe, and then Loretta has nothing to do with it. Right. I don't know. I'm kind of, the more we go on and on, I'm kind of starting to think maybe Loretta is actually totally innocent. I was totally wrong about that. I just still think that it would be a great double bluff, because the show has never done that. It's never given us a very obvious choice so obvious. We could never think it's her. And then at the last minute, dun dun dun, it's the obvious choice. I would love for that to be the case. A double
That's
bluff
why
is great.
I think I just feel like there's so much mother imagery that it's pointing to her.
Well, and what's
Being
the only
Dickie's
mother? No, but
and
what's
protecting him.
But this is what I'm saying. I think that the Salome Herod stuff is aunt. And there is that thing on her refrigerator that says Aunt Loretta.
Yeah.
And
which could also be a red herring. I don't know.
It could, I mean, sure, but it's so tiny,
But
it's like so subtle.
That handwriting also still, like, it bothers me.
But you're saying all the mother imagery. Yes, this show is littered with mother imagery. Who's the only mother we get in the show? Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the only literal mother.
Yeah.
So
that's
if
it could be
she
both.
could be
or
the
labeled
big bad.
mother. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really looking at Donna and Cliff as like the big bads.
It would be interesting.
It would
Just
be.
because all we've gotten from them is silly, cute, well,
weird.
And been in the background, comedic, like we talked about earlier,
right?
With distraction by comedy. They throw you off the scent by, sprinkling in these comedic moments or making the characters seem silly or insignificant. Mm-hmm. We saw that with Poppy for sure. And
we even saw with Jan too.
Yeah. So
we see with Jan.
I could see Donna. I do like the idea of Donna and Cliff somehow being involved, but I think I like it because I feel like it would very much so parallel. Let's say they are just a creepy, incestuous mother-son combo. If it's mother-son, Donna, Cliff, mother-son, Loretta, Dickie, somehow connecting. And that's just kind of my literary brain wanting to find patterns and
yeah. A couple more things I have that are questionable is why. Okay, so Dickie points out this time thing to Mabel, and I'm so bummed. Okay, I zoomed in on it a couple of episodes ago when I was looking at those tattoos because trying to figure out, I'm like, this twin thing is bullshit. The only thing that we have to go on for the twin thing is the tattoos, and I think it's going to be explained in some way. Maybe it's a production error, whatever. I just don't think that he's a twin. So when I was looking at those tattoos, I was like, oh, that watch. When someone, it's so Agatha Christie, when someone dies and their watch stops.
Freezes,
and the cops always think that's the time of death because they're wearing a watch. And if it stopped, then when they fell, that's.
Oh, it bothered me so much.
And I was
also,
and
I've
saw
never
the
seen that happen in real life.
No, it's bullshit.
Also,
and it's always the thing that hinges on the, oh no, this is the real clue. The time was wrong for this reason, and he didn't die then. He died at this time. So when this came up in this episode, I was kicking myself for not mentioning it sooner. But why would Dickie point out to Mabel, Ben always set his watch 20 minutes slow, so he would always be late or whatever. So why would Dickie point that out? And then immediately after he said, and this guy was in the building, Greg was there at this time, so it's got to be him, come on. And that, why would Dickie make that such a point to Mabel if he were the killer? And he's, do you see what I'm saying? Because if that was his whole plan, though, to frame Greg because of the time thing, why would you point out to Mabel, my brother's watch was wrong? Like, why would you wouldn't, I just don't.
But I could see that coming out as just like him venting, and it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And I don't think he would immediately leap to Mabel being able to make that connection. Like, he doesn't know that she has access to a photo of him after he's dead. There's no reason he would think that Mabel would have any sort of real proof. I don't know.
That's true. That's a good point, Kara. That's a good point. You make a good point. Thank you for that, because I'm hoping that it's Dickie. I hope he's the killer. That's my hope. I think that's the most plausible.
I would like that.
If Dickie's the killer, he was pissed at Ben because, okay, so this is what I was going to say about the whole death, the fact that Ben was like coughing and everything weirdly, it could be that that was something to do with what was done to him. Someone did something to him, something to do with the fog. Maybe the fog itself was poisoned. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
And why was he hacking so much at the party? Like, that means something to me.
Maybe he was intubated and his throat was raw. So
that's kind of logical, but I think you're right, Jade, because it was kind of very.
It was obvious that
it was our first like audible, like kind of clue that there was something wrong. He was coughing.
But this is the thing. There's all of these play references to people wearing facades, people wearing masks, people wearing costumes, actors not appearing to be on the outside what they really are on the inside. So what if when you watch that death, watch it closely. It kind of looks staged. It's on a stage done by an actor. And it's kind of a little melodramatic. If it was all staged by Ben, the blood was fake blood.
I could see that.
Or it's like in Romeo and Juliet, where he actually did take a drug that makes him appear dead for a time. The death drug, whatever that was in Romeo and Juliet. I'm sure it's still around.
I can't even remember.
So maybe he's sabotaging the show. Ben is. He's like, without me, there's no show. So I'm going to throw this bitch. Something happened because
could be connected with Donna.
Well, and Loretta, because he strangled Loretta before the show. So maybe something to do with Loretta and Dickie pissed him off. He didn't want to do the show. Nobody really wants to do the show. Jonathan doesn't want to do the show. Kimber's not into the musical. Charles is like, I don't want to do 8 shows a week. No one here wants to be here. This is the craziest fucking Broadway show. So Ben doesn't want to do the show. Dickie's pissed at Ben because that's his livelihood. Like, he's the manager. You ruin the show. You're ruining me. So he pushed him down the elevator because he ruined the show, and that's Dickie's hanky. Or like what you're saying, Kara, the hanky was planted for some reason. I don't know why that would be, but it's a good point. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if I think it was planted.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying. I thought you were saying it looked so much like a prop with the blood.
No, I was very, like, it took me out of it for a second, but the way that the fingerprints are, it seems like somebody was...
Well, whoever held it had a bloody hand.
Yeah, like
already had a bloody hand. Yeah.
It wasn't him blotting his hand because
it was clear, like a shove. You know what I mean? Where you make an imprint and that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's possible. I'm picking up on a lot of theatrical references though, and I'm just wondering could we look at all of this whole thing with Ben dying and then miraculously coming back to life as all being an act, all being theater.
It's a miracle.
And Ben maybe getting pushed on the
Miracle
elevator.
Ben.
Yeah, Miracle Ben. Yeah, maybe Ben getting pushed on the elevator was something, it was supposed to come off as something else, and then an accident occurred that actually killed Ben.
Yeah.
So maybe it was some kind of a performance gone awry. I don't know. Also, it makes kind of sense to me that maybe Donna was involved. If the show was going to be canceled and unsuccessful, she might have been relieved. And then when Ben comes back to life, she's like, nope, this can't fly. And then she actually makes sure that he's good and dead.
But Donna calls all the shots though with Cliff. So
right. Yeah. Donna and Cliff, man, they're so suspicious to me after this episode. So we have a couple of unanswered questions from last episode. Who is that theater ghost? It's not Jerry. I thought about it. Jerry can't be 2 places at once.
Yeah,
and there, I feel it was a scene where Jerry, we're supposed to see him as being in one spot, and then we see the person kind of like skid across doing the little click clack clack of their feet, running slow, like a little trot. I feel like the way that it was filmed, it looks like it can't be Jerry. So who is that other person in the theater, and is that significant? Also, Paul Rudd was credited on the last episode, but he didn't appear. And episodes where Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep don't appear, they're not credited in the opening.
We confirm that?
Unless I'm missing something, to my eyes, when they're not in an episode, they don't get credited.
I don't pay close enough attention. I should.
Yeah. Anyone out there, if you know more than I do, let us know. But I'm just wondering if maybe that person in the shadows was Paul Rudd.
Because we talking about that episode about how that flash, I thought it looked like him in his little detective outfit.
I mean,
or
maybe.
his stunt double.
Another thing I want to know, who the hell organized this documentary? Who hired Taubert? Because people are talking about Taubert and they're assuming, well, since Ben hired him to do the documentary, and I'm like, we don't know that. Well, since Dickie hired him to do the documentary, I'm like, we don't know who hired Taubert. Who is organizing this documentary? It's pretty damn sure though that Taubert knows more than he's
somebody with money.
Yeah.
Somebody with money. Yeah. Who's making this shit? Who's calling the shots? Who is Taubert's boss? That Cindy Canning, maybe? We don't know. Yeah. And then I thought back again, the Loretta strangling moment. I just have a question here. The fucking pig insult. The words fucking pig are very specific words that me as a person, I would call a man a fucking pig if they were being inappropriate, like sexually abusive, whatever, aggressive. That's when I would. So just the fact that she calls him a fucking pig is just an interesting insult. Just food for thought. Why? I don't know. It just seems strange, like to have him put his hands on her and then to have her say, "Get off of me, you fucking pig."
Yeah.
Like, I would. Did he if a guy put his hands on me,
towards
well,
her?
I know
there's a dick pic whole thing going on,
which is not surprising. That was very in character that Ben would send unsolicited dick pics. And maybe as the play went on, he became impressed with Loretta and made a move, which seems unlikely. But you're right. Unlikely. Like, if I were to call a guy a fucking pig, it would be because they said something like sexually inappropriate to me, or
if they were just being abusive, then I would say, "Get off of me, you asshole!"
Or you dick, or something,
you motherfucker, something
that like pig would not be the thing to come out of my mouth unless they were being like sexually inappropriate.
Right. Another question that I have from last episode is the toxicology report thing. The fact that we got the Dickie is the fixer, the Mr. Fix-It in Ben's life. He covers things up. So the toxicology report could be messed with, celebrity toxicology reports. It wouldn't be the first time, so it's possible that Dickie was behind that. So people wouldn't know that Ben was taking a certain medication.
I could see it.
Knows? But I am pretty convinced that there was no poison. I'm really leaning more toward that this was all an act, that Ben never really died. He was doing it himself. He wrote fucking pig himself. He did it all himself. At least the first death. I think he
first quote unquote murder attempt, or
I think he was pushed to a certain point of desperation and anguish and freaking out by someone else, of course. But the fact that he dropped down and then was mysteriously appeared to be dead, I think that Dickie was taken in just like the rest of us. He's pronounced dead, and then all of a sudden, no, I'm not. I think it was Ben's plan. And the last thing I will say is that the next episode is called Sitz Probe, and just letting everyone know out there who's not a theater person, in opera, a Sitz Probe, I'll read the Wikipedia definition, is a rehearsal where the singers sing with the orchestra, focusing attention on integrating the two groups, the singers and the orchestra. It's often the first rehearsal where the orchestra and singers rehearse together. It's the equivalent Italian term is provare alla italiana. It's an opera thing. So just letting everyone know that's what Sitz Probe means. So you can expect some dress rehearsal action.
I love it. They're all going to be together again.
Yes. All right. So with that, we have to say goodbye to Erica.
Got to do some mommy duties.
Got the mommy duties. She's a good mom, though, not an abusive, crazy
no,
mom who belittles her
weird,
children.
Creepy mom or no. I gotta go.
No, she's a loving mama.
Yes.
All right.
Love you guys.
Go.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, baby.